Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Paul Kroon. In this video we will dive in the second part of our calendar. And this calendar idea was from a video from Shane Young, which also created a calendar for us. Used a lot of formulas which I think you don't need. So basically in the first video we created one variable, one record variable, which will basically do all our navigation. But in this video we're gonna take that variable, connect it to a calendar, and basically roll out a calendar. And this is based on the calendar table. Calendar table is something we would use in Power BI to basically have all kinds of representations of a specific date, right? Like a year, a month, a quarter, or whatever. So we can dice and slice. So we will take that approach and put it on the gallery with just one formula, which basically is connected to this variable. Run this calendar. Okay, this will be a little bit longer video, will be some more complex formulas. Still, it's a nice approach and to learn how you can basically have a few formulas which is manipulating data, right? So we doing a lot of data manipulation to have our table dynamically built. So let's dive in and go to the other screen to get started, right? Because we have a lot to do. So first, last video we had a variable here and we were able to have our navigation, go back to today, last day, have a month, a week. But now we need to connect this variable we have to our gallery to create a table. So let's first reset it all so don't get into problems later that we don't understand things, and it's because we have some settings we didn't expect. So let's take it down and first pick our gallery. Say, okay, this is the calendar, right? Calendar. Let's call it like this. Now, first, let's talk about self and parent. So we're gonna reference a lot of things to the gallery itself, but one thing we can do is the rep count. So for the rep count we of course like to have 5 or 7 based, or whether we have the whole week or the whole month or only the work days, right? We have the work days, we don't have the Saturday and Sunday, we want to take them off. So then it should be 5 L 7. And this calendar of the rep count, we add it to this calendar view, right? So here we have a rep count, and the only thing we have this rep count is we aren't able to reference this rep count from the gallery itself. And I will show you in just 1 minute. So this is the rep count. If we change this to work days or work week, then we get 5 instead of 7. Now it's 7 because we have the whole. Okay, that works. Now the template size. What we like to do is to have the self height, and we know we have 7 items for a week, right? And we like to have a template size which are basically the rows here. So we want to have the self height divided by 4, 5 or 6 or even 1 item, right? Because we have 1 week, we have 28 days, 35 days, 42 days max. So we like to divide this, and then we do some math. So we do round bracket to say, okay, first calculate this, and then we will just have a simple formula, count the rows of itself dot all items here, and close this. So we count the rows of this item itself, and we divide the self height by this. We know we have 7 or 5 items for each row. So basically we have to decide this based on that rep count, right? Now we can do self rep count. It's not supported. You see here we get errors. That's why we put it in that calendar settings, calendar view variable, right? Calendar view dot rep counts. So now when we have 35, this is 35 divided by 7. So we have 5 rows for the self height. Now we have only 4 items. That's why it doesn't work. But when we go later on and we have that gallery items, then basically this will work as a chart. So now let's go to the data and let's make it a little bit bigger so we can see it. Let's see what we have to do on the calendar itself. Basically what we want to have is something for all, right? And we like to have this sequence part and say now for now 35 days. Let's give it a alias, and then we like to return a record, right? And that record we like to return is basically a date. So let's take today for now, and with the date we want to add that sequence value and take one off. So what I'm doing here is that I say the sequence value is the first row is 1. I take 1 off so I get 0, and that's an approach that normal development we have that a lot because we have an index starting with 0, right? And then we iterate 1, 2, 3, 4, and I basically simulate that with this simple formula. So this first date should basically be the first date of the calendar, right? Not the first day of the month, first day of our calendar. So if we now take this and we go here and we connect this part to a date, and let's say we like to format that a little bit better by saying, okay, we like to have the date name, the date, the month, and the years. So like this. So if we now click it, today it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, etc. 35 lines, and you see 35 divided by 7 is the height divided by 5 rows. Simple as that. So this works. Only we want to have this dynamic, right? So let's make this more dynamic. But let's first change another part, because inside of here, basically what we want to do, we want to have this date we have now change to, for example, the weekday, week number, etc. Right? So we want to basically reuse this. So what we can do is here is take this, make this a width. So basically we say add a variable in here, then say the date should be the date. Just pass it. Now we have this. We can say the weekday is the same as the weekday formula, and then the date. And of course later on we like to have the weekday, the starting day here, because then the Monday will be 1 or the Sunday will be, right? So now take the second part and say the weekday, so we can see whether this works. We now run our application. The Sunday is now the first day because that's default, and you see 1 to 7, 1 to 7, 7, etc. This is what we want, and in the end this is basically the structure we will return. Of course this can be 7 or 48 or 35 or 42, but we like to calculate this dynamically. So let's work on that. So first what we like to do is to have our calendar settings variable inside of a scope formula, so we can use it till we return the table, right? So let's have a width here. Let's destructure this, give this a tab. It's very nice that the tab is working nice now. This is working perfect. And here we like to add that calendar settings thing variable inside of here. Calendar settings. So basically what we're doing with the start of the, just grab that variable and put it in. The nice thing about this is that this formula, when we build it, doesn't have to go out this scope, go to another variable, get something, do that in every iteration. It's just available for the rest of our formula. So that's nice. So now we like to have another width. Let's take this step and close this formula, because what we at the end want is to have the first day of the calendar and the last day of the calendar, and then take the difference of those days, put it one extra, because of course we have the difference and we don't take the loss. But if we add one extra, we basically have the first day of the calendar minus the last day of the calendar plus 1. But we have to calculate that first date of the calendar and the last date of the calendar. And of course, they should be dependent on whether we choose a week or a month. Let's first get some other properties in here which we need to do so. So let's first say we want to have the first day of month, right? Because we selected a specific month and we like to use that. So here we can have date, then we take our variable, we put here in the first step and say year. Then we do the same for the month, month, and I think I have small letters here. So we put in the year, which we have selected before. We take in the month, and of course the first of the month is just 1. Let's copy this part, because besides the first of the day of the month, we want to have the last day of the month also. And here we will have a date add formula, because we will just basically add 1 month. So we get basically the first day of the next month, and then take 1 off to have the last day of the current month. So, fairly simple calculation, right? Now, of course, we also want to have the date itself, and let's say the date comes from the date of the CS, and let's name this a little bit differently. To say date in is the date we select. So if we have a weekday, we will take this day in. Now we also want to have week numbers, and to calculate a week number we don't have a formula for that. Basically what I found out that we need the first day of current year, and let's make it a little smaller, and the first day of the current year is of course that year, and then January, and then the 1st of January. So that's the first date of this year. When we are in January, the first days when we take the week number, it could be 52 or 53, right? So basically we would copy this, and this is the current year, and let's call this the previous year. And then we can do whatever kind of things, but let's make it easy to say the year minus 1 is the last year, and 1 is 1 January. So now we, for the week number, first day of the current year and the first day of the previous year. Now basically I think one thing else is also important, and it's the first day week property we have, and let's also put that in here in a variable, right? So now we have the variables we need to calculate the rest of our things, and what we should calculate is the first day of the calendar and the last day of the calendar at first, right? So let's just add a with formula here, make a record, close this with formula, and give this a tab to really looking nice again. And here we want to have the first day of our calendar. So we start our calendar with this day we now gonna calculate. What is the first day of the date? Of course, the first day of the month. And from there we should take the weekday of this same date. So if we are date 4, we take 4 of them, we are basically at 0. So basically the 7th date of the last week, right? So basically we should add 1. And now we have the first day of the calendar. And this we can take, and of course put here the first day of the calendar instead of today. And then we have a sequence of 35. So let's see if this works. So now we have Sunday 28 March 2012. it's fine, I think. The only thing what's not working right is that when we go to Monday, then this isn't changed. And I think that's because of didn't reflect that first day of the week. So here we should have the first day of the week. And probably here we should have the first day of the week. And now basically it should work, right? So we have the Monday, and like the Sunday, we have the Sunday 28, so we have the Monday 29. But this works. But now we still have those 35 rows, right? And if we have a month of 28 rows, where 1 February starts on the first day of the calendar, it should have 4 lines. And sometimes we have some days before and some days after. Then we should have 6 lines, right? So we want to variable also. So for that, we need to have the last day of calendar, right? To be able to calculate that. And this we will calculate by the last day of the month. Now let's say the last day of the month is day 5. Basically, then we should add 2 days to it, right? So we should add something. And basically we take that 5 of 7, then we get 2. So a simple calculation is to take 7, and then the last day of the month, and of course the weekday of the last day of the month of there, and of course we should be aware of the first day of this week, right? So now we have the first day calculated and the last day calculated. So the two things we need to be able to determine how many days we have in our calendar, a specific selection of a date. So what we can do here is to change that 5, is to say we can of course have a date different calculation here. So we take the first day of the calendar and the last day of calendar, and we calculate the difference between those days, and basically we're missing one date, so we add 1. So now we get 28, 35, and of course this is based selection of the month. Now, are we ready now? No, of course not, because let's say when we pick a week, then first day of the month and the last day of the month isn't the thing we like to use in the day of the calendar. No, we like to use that date int, right? So what we have to do here is to have a if formula, and let's say when it's true, we take that date and we perform basically the same formula here. Like this, of me is date int, right? And I think we have to do the same for this. So if this is true, false, we take that month, but else take the date in, and we calculate last of that date in. If we now look at our calendar, we see we only have just, which is normal because we both said true. Then we have to think of what should be true then. And here, basically, when we look at it, we have that calendar views type inserted in the earlier video, and we could use that, of course, here. So the calendar view dot type dot key, and when we take the week, we set that key to 2, right? So the month was a 1 key and the week was a 2 key. So basically, when it's a 2 key, key is 2. Then it should take the date in, it should be a week. And if it's not a 2, it should be default to a month. Nice thing about this approach is that when we say we have a verb type, can't imagine what type this is, but let's say we want to have a period of 2 weeks, for example, we can just have this calendar view type key free and have an extra calculation here. Again, calculate the first day of the week and the last day of the week. So now we have this Sunday, and if we go to a week, we fall back to a week. And this is great. If we go to Sunday and Monday, etc. So this works. Let's go to the defaults so we don't have strange things here. Let's take this weekday like this. So now we have the first day of the calendar. Last day of the calendar, we have a calculation of the number of items which is dynamic based on the first and the last day of this calendar. So this will work fine, right? It will be working great. And then we need to do the same kind of thing for that week number, because we like to have that week number also in our calendar table, right? Because we need that week. So here we have the first day of the current year and previous day of the current year. And then basically of that, we like to calculate zeg maar the first day of first week current year. And this should be a calculation based on the first day of current year, right? First day of the current year, we should be aware when this is a weekday of 1. Basically, that's the good day, right? Then we want to start there. But when it's not a weekday of 1, then we want to add something. Because we then want to have a weekday counted to 8, because then we have the day of the next week, right? So let's say the first day of the week, then add something. And here we want to do an if statement, because first we like to know if this week day of the current year, and of course we should encounter the first day of the week, want to know whether this is greater than 1. And if it's greater than 1, then we want to add a number which basically puts the weekday to an 8, right? So let's say we want to add 8 minus the current weekday. Right? And else we want to return 0. So let's look at this. So first we take the first day of the current year. Could be the first weekday. This could also be the third weekday. If it's not the first weekday, then we want to add some days till we get the first day of the next week. So basically what we're doing here, we have an if statement checking if the first weekday of the first day of the current year is same as 1 or higher than 1. Then if it's higher than 1, we want to have the first day of the next week, because that's then the first day of the first day, week of the current year. I hope this makes sense. I think the same applies to the first day of the first week of previous year. Only then we should take the first day of the previous year, check the first day of the previous year, and if that is bigger than 1, and add 1. And why we need the first day is because we have to have a calculation to get the weekday of the current date, right? Current date we have in our calendar table. So these we gonna use to have a calculation for our week number. And this will be a somehow more difficult calculation, because basically we have to have a number which we can divide by 7, right? And see the difference between the date of this date against the first day of the year, and then have a calculation there. So let's do this. So first, I think we like to have a with formula here, and we like to have a calculation to decide the last day of the week based on this date. So take this date, and then we add, because we like to have the date 7 date, right? So we like to add 7 minus the weekday of the date based on the first day of the week. So basically now we have the last day of the current week where this date is in, right? So let's close this, and here we build our formula. So first we will do a round, just to be sure. Then we take the last day week, and what we take off is the if the last day of week, last day this week is bigger than the first week of the current year. If it's bigger than the first day of the current year, then we like to take off the first day of the current year, and else we like to take off the first day of the previous year. Now, the first day of this year of the first day of the previous year is of course day 1. We take it off day 7. So basically we probably like to add 1 there. Then divide it by 7 days in a week. Structure is a little bit better, so we can see what we are doing. One is minus 7, and then say 0 for the round. So let's take a recap of this. So we have a date, and this date lays in a week. So we like to have the last day of the week, and take that date and then add it till we have 7, right? Whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday, doesn't really matter. As soon as we come to 7, this is okay. Then we take this last day of the week, and we check if the last day of the week is bigger than the first day of the first week of the current year. So when we are in January, this will only have effect on January. We check the first row, right? First row in our calendar, 7 items. So if this is bigger than the first week, we know this is basically week 1. And then we take first day of the current years off. So in the first week we have day 7. We take 1 off, 6 plus 1. We always have 7. And then we divide it by 7. And then we say, to be sure, just round this based on a 0. And in this way we have calculated the row number based on the first day of the current year, the first day of the previous year, and then have a calculation from 7 days in a week. So if we now take this and say, let's take this and copy this, here say week number, let's see if this works. You see we have week 13. Let's go back to January, see it reflected. We have week 1, and this is based a calculation based on first day of the year or last year, right? 2020 and not 2001. So we see this reflected. Let's see if it also works for a week started on Monday. You see this is working also. This is working. Create this formula to calculate. And basically now we are done with our calendar. And of course what we can do, and normally in my SharePoint list I have something like a date int, and here we can have a value of a text, take that date in, return a year, month, date, and then take the value of that. And then and then we have a date int. Maybe we would like to add a SharePoint list there, right? So let's see where we will do that. Maybe just on this level, and here's the SharePoint list, and then basically we will have a filter, data source, and fill in items we want to have in this month, right? So let's basically pick a table. It's just an example. Let's say we have an ID, a title, and a date int. This is only April, and of course that would be filter around. But then we could import the 2000 records SharePoint list. So depending whether we expect more records or 2000 is enough, this is a great place to put it here, because then you can just say here do SharePoint list and filter that SharePoint list with the date int is equal to this value, right? And then we would have a table in our calendar table which we can connect to another gallery, having a list of items in this specific week. So this is the way how we could do this. Now, are we ready now? No, of course not, because now we have the 7 days in a week, and of course we like to filter that week if we have, for example, work days or a work week. So we should add a filter here. Let's take this part to here and give that a tap and close this formula, and then here we could say 1 is 1. See if the formula works. This is the right place, and here we should of course have a kind of formula. So I think this should be an OR, because the first thing we would like to check if it's whether the calendar view dot rep count is equal to 7. So if this is the case, basically everything is returned on this moment because this is true, and the OR function will stop. If it's not 7, what we probably would do is check whether the weekday is Sunday, and if it's Sunday, just say something should be not in certain weekdays, right? So let's say the first day of a week is equal to Sunday, then we not want something to be in the weekday which we have on our calendar, right? And it should not be in 1 or 7, because 1 is Sunday, 7 is Saturday. And if this is both are false, then we want to check when the first day of the week is Monday. It shouldn't be 6 or 7, because 6 is Saturday then and 7 is Sunday. So now we basically filter all the lines away which we don't need at all. If we now check this out, go to work week, we'll see we have 5 days from Monday to Friday, and even if we change the Monday to Sunday, it will be fine. Same for the work week, right? And if we take the normal week, we have that Sunday again. Almost done. The only thing we need to do is to have the headers different organized, and of course the weeks. Start, because now gallery here, say this is name gallery week numbers, doesn't really matter how they called, and here we like to have a data source connected properly to the gallery calendar, right? And calendar items, but we don't want to have all items, we want to have only the weeks. We like to have those weeks unique, right? So say week number, distinct week number, and basically we return the right number already, I think. Yes. So let's take this item dot result, and this result is 15. So now let's change to month. You see we have 13, 15 till 17. May, we have other weeks. So basically it drills out the weeks from the gallery, does the same formula with the count rows of items based on the self height, and then this works. Now we have to do something. Sunday and Monday changing, and let's do that. Go here, and here we see we have the weekdays long, which is just a list. Of course we want to add some numbers to those lists to have a table which we can filter then. Let's just copy this formula which I built already, because this is basically redoing all the things we learned already. So first we have a sequence, we know we have 7 days, take the weekday, is the value, and the name is the name of the week, and then we check when the first day is Sunday, just return this formula. If not, we look whether the value is 7, then we return the first item, and we return, let's say, the sequence +1. So in the first iteration we do the second item, which is the Monday, then the Tuesday. When we come to the 7th iteration, then we take the first one, which is the Sunday. Then we look at the rep count again, or set as first day of the week. When it's Sunday, it's not 7, and it's a Monday, then it's not in 7, 6 or 7. So you see also this formula, the other gallery I could maybe make a little easier, right? So now what we see is that, of course, we have to connect this item we have on here, this text item, first week. This text item we should connect to the name. So now we have a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, and if we change, started on Monday, if we do only the work days, the Saturday and Sunday are taken off. Oh, I think we are ready now. We have basically built everything we have to do from the gallery, where we put in just one formula connected to the object we created, or the variable we created. Then the week numbers are taking off this gallery, and then we have a similar formula for the headers to reorganize the days, and then have a filter on it, which is basically very simple. Now we have one thing to do. I noticed after the last video, let's say we go before January, then we have a problem and it stops working. That's because we don't have 2019 in here. So basically we have to disable those buttons here to fix this this. So let's take a formula, simple formula, saying the display mode should be disabled if the year is equal to the minimal year. The month is also equal to the minimum month. Then it should be disabled, else it should be enabled. We can take this formula, copy this, go to the other, and here do the same for the display mode, only not the min, but of course the max, because this is going up. We now reset our variable, go to 2020 to January, then you see this is disabled. See, I can click it 2 times. That's why it's performing right, but now it's disabled, and now it works. So I think this is the end of this tutorial on me showing you how to have one variable and just the gallery, where we do a lot of data manipulation, but just return calendar table. Okay, I hope you like this video, and if you do, please like and subscribe. And if you like to have me show you specific things, please leave those in the comments. And thanks for watching.